So today is the first really nice spring-like day outside, and my husband and he's outside yet again building something. And even after 23 years of marriage, he has not figured out that I prefer to be at my computer. So he thinks I am inventorying our freezer right now. So bear with me. Anyway, Mass Effect is a beloved franchise that's captivated gamers with its epic space opera storyline, its memorable characters, and its really deep lore. Everyone is currently trying to figure out who the next villain is going to be in the upcoming Mass Effect game. And one possibility that I've seen floated now several times is the Leviathan as the next villain. I've seen a couple of different Mass Effect creators now talking about this idea. And frankly, I was pretty surprised. I mean, I completely disagree with the notion that they'd be a good choice, and I've got thoughts on the matter. Let's talk about. Well, so far, 4 pounds of ground beef, a frozen quiche, and several mystery items that predate our children. The Leviathan species was introduced as an ancient and powerful race that predates the Reapers. They were able to resist the Reapers' attempts to control them, and they were believed to be extinct until their brief reemergence in Mass Effect 3. They play a significant role in the history of the Mass Effect universe, and while they could be potentially a villain for the next Mass Effect game, I think there are several reasons why they would not be a good choice. The Mass Effect trilogy has already featured a race of ancient godlike beings, the Reapers, as the main antagonists. Introducing another similar type of enemy would feel repetitive, even ironically derivative. The franchise needs to keep things interesting and engaging by exploring new territory, not rehashing old ideas. The Leviathans were presented as a largely passive and reactive force in Mass Effect 3, with the player character driving the action and making the key decisions. This could make the Leviathan less compelling as a proactive and threatening villain in their own right. Players want a villain that they can actively fight against, not one that they're simply reacting to. While the Leviathan were intriguing and mysterious in Mass Effect 3, I don't think they have enough depth to sustain an entire game as the primary antagonist. The Mass Effect series has a complex and interconnected lore, with multiple races and factions vying for power and influence. Introducing a new major antagonist in the next game would need to be done in a way that makes sense within the existing narrative framework and doesn't feel forced or contrived. The Leviathan lore is relatively limited compared to the other factions in the Mass Effect universe. One of the hallmarks of Mass Effect games is the emotional connections players feel with the characters in the story. The Leviathan, being both non-humanoid and a non-emotive species, may not be able to create the same level of emotional engagement with players as other villains unless they introduce a representative with whom the player has a personal history like Harbinger or a proxy like the Star Child. And hasn't that already been done? Not to mention that interacting with them would be almost the same experience as that with the Reapers. And a direct callback to the conflict and experiences of the earlier game does not move the game forward in any meaningful way. The Leviathan are a single species, and their motivation and abilities are largely unknown. And I think this could lead to a lack of variety in terms of the types of encounters players can have with them throughout the game. Additionally, they're already established as having extremely powerful abilities and the ability to manipulate others through their telepathic abilities. So it may be difficult to create compelling conflicts between the player and the Leviathan, as the Leviathan really just overpower or outmaneuver them through their mind control. One of the core concepts of the Mass Effect series is the exploration of the universe, and the Leviathan, being an ancient and isolated species may not provide the same opportunities for exploration and discovery as other villains would. And given their extremely long lifespan and very advanced technology, they may not perceive events in the same way as other races, and the Leviathan may take a more measured approach to any potential conflicts. They may be more inclined to work behind the scenes to achieve their goals rather than engaging in direct confrontation. That's what their history would imply. They've also shown a tendency to manipulate and control other species to achieve their objectives rather than engaging in brute force. And as ancient and very long-lived beings, they may have longer-term perspectives on events and may be playing a much longer game than the current conflicts that are taking place in the Mass Effect universe. The Leviathan, while intriguing and undoubtedly extraordinarily powerful, are just not a good choice as villains in the next Mass Effect game. They've been explored already in the previous game, and bringing them back would feel stale. Their motives and goals are not particularly compelling or relatable to players, which makes it difficult to create a meaningful conflict. And more importantly, the Leviathan have shown themselves to be relatively passive. All things considered, the developers, in my opinion, would be better off exploring new threats and new challenges in the Mass Effect universe rather than going back and relying on the Leviathan. But I would like to know what you think. Do you agree with those saying that the Leviathan are the most likely next villain? Do you like that idea? If you do, let me know in the comments, but be sure to tell me why. And as always, thanks for watching and enjoy your day.